is hát valamiért szava?
We have the right to believe that Pastor Istvan's work is eternal. We have good reason to think so because there are people whose work is to weave and connect historical periods. These people are not only living in history, but also shaping it. Pastor Istvan was such a person. Pastor Istvan connected the bodies with the Hungarians and united the people of Vajda with the people of motherland. Not by force, although he did not lack that, not by false policy, although he could speak out loud, but by his endurance and courage and by his down-to-earthness, which we Hungarians, but I think, dear Aleksandar, you Serbs also know very well. This is primarily about him. Today, with President Vucic, I pass this award. This is an honor for me. As you may have heard, we met for the first time in 2010. To add to that, we were both in the opposition. Everyone can deduce the appropriate consequences from this. In closing, if we are here together, I note that when we were still in the opposition, but we felt that we would be able to form a national government in Budapest, I made 3 preparatory steps in relation to the opposition. I went to China, to the Russian president, and met with the Serbs. I felt that this was the future that we would have to work towards. Ladies and gentlemen, when we first met in the opposition, none of us could have imagined that we would be standing here and celebrating a joint effort that would set an example for Europe and the Balkan region. Serbs and Hungarians, throughout our history, we have not been in such good terms. The significance of our cooperation, dear freedom lovers, is that it allows us to stabilize the relations between the two peoples and the entire Balkan world and the entire region. The Hungarian and Serbian peoples are among the oldest and most ancient peoples of the region, and the spirit and economic value of the two peoples make us key figures. Without the cooperation of the Serbs and Hungarians, there is no stability in the entire Balkan region. Of course, this is necessary, but we must always be aware of the significance of our cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing changes in the world today that underestimate the Serbian-Hungarian relations. The ancient world we have lived in is falling apart before our very eyes. It is no longer the case that Asian powers, including China, are getting stronger. This is a fact. This change is a fact that everyone sees and that it is not even worth explaining. But beyond the rise of Asia, it is also a fact that Western Europe is losing its residual influence in recent days. The Americans and the Russians are talking about the future, while the Brussels is waiting in the front room, and the dog on the leash is barking. Ladies and gentlemen, Europe is still talking about war plans, while everyone is already talking about peace. Who wants to play cards with those who do not have good cards in their hands, but want to break the rules? This does not happen in a village brothel, ladies and gentlemen, nor in international diplomacy. We could laugh at this, but it is not only worrying, but also dangerous, because the leaders of Brussels are so under the influence of their own war propaganda that this is already putting the safety of the whole continent at risk. This is why alliances that bind the Hungarians and the Serbs are being evaluated. We have to be brave. We have to be brave. It is a great honor and privilege for me today to be here with you in the Subotica City Hall and to accept the recognition, which is certainly one of the most dear to me, which I have ever received. I will not allow minority politics to be just a struggle for preferential votes. We have to build bridges of solidarity and trust. This is what my friend Pastor Istvan said. Serbs and Hungarians have a common motto: whatever you sow, you will reap. Today we are all asking for the best fruits of our labor. I will not call Viktor to put him to trouble. When we see that Ursula gives the goal in the last minute in Hungary, I get nervous just as much as he does. And I am completely open when I tell you that. You see, I made you laugh for the first time because you know that I told you the truth. You feel that I told you the truth. And I look at those players on the pitch who live and eat, who score a goal in the 95th or 96th minute, and I feel guilty, as if the Serbs scored the goal. And this shows what we have managed to change in the past 15 years, and we would not have managed it without Pastor Istvan. A little while ago, Balint told me that politics is not a game, and that I was right at that moment. As for Viktor Orban, why am I proud to accept this award with him today? It is about a great leader that the Hungarian people will remember. Elections are not the only important thing. What is left behind is also important. Viktor Orban raised the visibility of Hungary in Europe and the world. The whole world is talking about Hungary because only they are able to solve certain problems for their country directly by talking to President Trump. Viktor Orban is the one who managed to make friendships where others did not even try. They are unofficial, but as we know, OFAC or the Treasury would make a positive decision on licensing, but the State Department is waiting for a decision. That decision has not yet been made. This brings us to a very difficult position on which we are prepared. We did not expect it. We expected something else. But we are prepared, and the citizens do not have to worry. We do not have to explain why there is no electricity, no heating in the cities, no electricity in the pumps. The state takes all the measures, and one of these measures is cooperation with our Hungarian friends, where we have allowed access to refineries. On Saturday or Sunday, we leave the so-called quiet course, that is, warm circulation. Then the refinery must be closed. So far, we have not received a signal that we will get a license from the United States. If this happens, we will need to work day and night from the day we get the license, 15, 16 days, to renew the production of oil derivatives, the first diesel to leave the refinery. But what do we do? The United States has introduced sanctions. I have had, and I still have, two things to do. The first is to ensure that Hungary gets out of the American sanctions. The second is to ensure that there is oil. So not only paper and permits, but also oil and gas. In the coming days and tomorrow, I will continue negotiations in this regard. I hope we will succeed, and there will be oil and safety from the sanctions. That is, oil and gas will continue to reach Hungary. And if we have it, you will have it too. The question is how we can help you. My simple answer is that we will share what we have with you. 50 days. For 50 days, no one in Serbia has felt anything or seen any problem. In this way, we are talking about the readiness of the state, about the seriousness and responsibility of the state, about oil and gas production. Some said that we did not need it. And when we started this initiative, I said that it was of strategic importance. But a year ago, it turned out that we were right. We want to accelerate the design and construction of oil and gas in Novi Sad. That is 108 kilometers from our side. I hope that we will be able to do this by all the accelerated procedures, that we can diversify the sources of oil in the future, and to rely on a very reliable friend and ally, such as Hungary. We do not have any problems, I would say that we do, in the functioning of GNF, but the first hour when the sanctions were introduced, the Croats stopped every drop of oil and will wait for all possible procedures to pass, and when the Americans allow us to release that oil. In any case, as far as your first question is concerned, I believe in the good intentions of the Trump administration. I want to believe, and I hope, that they will make a decision in accordance with what they said, and that is that they do not want Serbia to be hit and injured, and whose interests are threatened, so I hope that the decision will be positive. In any case, we did everything we could as a guarantee, but we will not take someone's property for a day, 2, 3, or less than 3 months in total. That is, from October 9th. We are not communists, and we will not take someone's property. We are making a reasonable sale deadline. As far as we are concerned, it is a Russian election. It is a question for the Russians who they want to sell it to. We only said who they cannot sell it to, but MOL, Magyarska, and, of course, some other Arab friends are always welcome investors in our country. As far as your second question is concerned, I think it was important. It seems to me that Elon Musk wanted to show how this geopolitical conflict unfolds, regardless of the borders, and how interestingly the countries are connected. That is why you were able to find a large part of, Ukrainian taxes in Britain, and we were able to see that most of the taxes of our political opponents come, unfortunately, from Croatia, and partly from other Western countries. There are hardly any from Hungary, which is strange, so I think that people understand what was brought in and brought in. I am proud of the fact that the citizens of Serbia recognize this, and that we were able to preserve our independence, trust, and independence regardless of the harsh blows we were and that we are exposed to today.